Hey guys, what's going on? Hope everybody's having an amazing day. Just shaking the cobwebs here and kind of waking up a little bit. But I've got a ton of really cool content coming up in the next couple of days, some interviews. I won't really announce them until I have them buckled down because anything can happen. But I'm speaking to some of the guys of some of the projects that I really like, and I'm lining up some other ones. And I always, just my disclaimer as always, I've got to say it, but it's true. This isn't like financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You shouldn't base any of your financial decisions off of what I'm saying. I'm just kind of providing a little bit of insight from somebody who's not like a banker and necessarily like a technology guy, but just somebody who's much like a lot of you guys who just loves EOS. And, I read a lot and I take a lot of opinions in and I try to kind of dissect it and make it a little bit more digestible. So just the disclaimer, just for fun. What I want to talk to you guys today about is the way that the airdrop market has kind of reacted in the last few days since there's my dog chasing his butt. That's about right. Anyway, the way that the airdrop market has dropped in the last couple of days. So we had two really really cool projects come out, and they came out with a bang. IQ, which is going to be, in my opinion, once again, just my opinion. Don't base any financial decisions off this, but IQ is going to be pretty big because it's essentially like the new Wikipedia, right? Where you actually have tokenized incentive to be able to write articles. People can upvote them, downvote them. I don't think that I think that that's going to be a force. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for it to develop, but I think that it's going to be a force. And of course, we had Chance, right? And Chance is kind of the go-to exchange for airdrops right now. And both of those have done really, really well. It's been kind of tumultuous up and down. And then we saw two new ones hit the market. And it was horrifying. It was horrifying to me anyway. But I kind of like when I really think about it, it kind of makes sense. And hey, Burrito, stop killing him. Two dogs are killing each other. But it kind of made sense the way it went down when I really like take a step back and look at it. There's we're getting hit with all these new drops. There's new chains, there's new drops. I got a ton of content coming up on those, but we're getting hit with these new drops. And the first two they were pretty strong drops, right? They've got some financial backing, got some good use cases, and they're interesting. And then all of a sudden we were dropped Horus and Karma. And those are both projects that if you watch my other videos, I think are going to be pretty big for their own reasons, because I think one is very eye-opening and it's a cool service. And I think that the other one has some real ability to affect change in the world if it's used properly. And I think that it will be. I think that people need to learn about some of the reasons why it could be efficient. And I'll explain those in videos that are coming up. Got some cool interviews coming up. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they came out of the market. And one thing that happens when you give people a bunch of stuff for free, and I know this from my own personal business because I run an online business that's like a service provider business, which I try not to let the two streams cross for reasons that they're very unrelated in a lot of cases. Anyway, I know that when I give my services away online for free, that the retention and that the follow-up of the client drops significantly. And as I said, I'm not an economist, but I know that people who pay for my service and people who are into the service tend to complete the service, they tend to use the service, they tend to want feedback on the service and use it kind of as it was intended. So we're in the middle of this big experiment right now where EOS is kind of the go-to airdrop platform, and they're throwing these drops out like crazy, and people are getting stuff for free. And unfortunately, what's happening is that instead of creating a market, they've made a market, and some of that market either doesn't buy into the product because maybe they're not educated enough, or maybe just doesn't see the value in the product. And I understand that too. I personally do see value in the products, and we'll talk about that later, as I said. But when people get something for free that they don't value, what do? They get rid of it, or they use it, or they don't respect it. And it's the same in my own personal business case as well. So we're seeing this weird little kind of socio-economic experiment play out where people are getting a ton of stuff for free that they're not necessarily educated on, or maybe they just don't believe in. And the awesome things about markets is that they're very fluid. They're always changing. So when just because something is a certain price today, it doesn't mean that that's going to be its indicative price. Horus, I think is a great project. I think it's awesome. You get paid in crypto. Karma, when you really sit down and examine the project, is extremely cool because I really believe that it has the ability to create social change. I don't think that it's just about I don't think it's just about hippies who are, gonna feed cats and post about it on Instagram and get paid for it. I think there's a lot more to it, and as I said, we'll get into that later on because I think there's a lot of ideas behind the tokens that people don't quite grasp or understand, or maybe just don't believe in, and that's cool too. Anyway, when you're giving a bunch of stuff for free, a bunch of people there was no market that was created, there was no demand that was created, there was no demand there. People just receive these airdrops, so inevitably a lot of people not having the same understanding. And I've kind of heard this. I've heard this echoed in a lot of the conversations that I've had. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I could sell it and get some more EOS. And EOS is never, in my opinion, going to be a bad bet. So at the same time, instead of creating that market and creating that demand, the demand is, burrito, you got to chill, man. Just relax. Dog's barking at me. It's a wild house here. Instead of creating that demand, people got a bunch of stuff for free. They saw an opportunity to offload it, and they've done it. But I don't necessarily think that that's going to be the determinant of the end market, and that's what makes it so interesting. Right now, things kind of went down. They're starting to pick up again. There's a little bit of action going on, but I just think that it's going to find a market. And I think that when it does find a market, once again, not financial advice, I think when it does find that market, we're going to see a very different response. And I think we're going to see this happen with quite a few tokens. And depending on where your head's at, and depending where your finances are, you never want to invest into something with money that you don't have. Every investment I've made into cryptocurrency has been strictly with extraneous money that I'm prepared to lose before I even spend it. So I think that's really the key thing to keep in mind. But I also think that if you're sharp and if you can do your research and if you can think your way around certain of these projects and you can choose the winners versus the losers, there's the potential to do really, really well. There's also the potential to get involved with some pretty cool cases of kind of a way to change the world through blockchain as well, which is honestly that's what I really enjoy. So people got a bunch of stuff for free. They didn't see the potential. They offloaded it. I don't think it's going to stay there forever, but I'm only one man, and I want to know what you guys think. So do me a favor, drop your comments below. Let me know what's going on in your head, because I'm always curious to find out what people think and how people think it's going to play out. You think these drops are going to go to zero and stay to zero? I personally don't. I think right now they're in that fluid phase of trying to find their market. I think that they will, and the ones that don't have any value won't ultimately. But I don't think that's the case for any of the drops that we've seen that are currently trading. So once again, I want to know your opinion. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I got some really cool stuff coming up, and I'm super stoked to do some of these interviews and get you guys some more information. Have a fantastic day. We will see you soon.